Hello and welcome to Data Structures. My name is Chris Howard. I'll be the instructor for this course. I've been teaching and doing C++ programming for many years. Started with DeVry back in 1997. Here's a picture of me in Rome from a year or so ago. These days, outside of teaching, much of my professional work is involved in an area of machine vision where we take pictures of things and try to find flaws or count things. A lot of it's for manufacturing, quality assurance. So here's an interesting filter that we've used in the past where we take a picture, in this case of a coin, a circular object, and then we're actually able to unwrap this and make it into a rectangular image. So that's kind of a interesting machine vision filter that we use sometimes. In our data structures course, we have an electronic book, and it's fairly good. Most books on data structures are fairly good, and you should refer to it often, and feel free to ask me any questions about it if you have any. Data structures is an interesting concept. It's a way of organizing information in memory in order to support certain algorithms. So sometimes just having data organized in a certain way can make algorithms easier to work with and or more efficient. In this case, we've got an image of an array, and that's probably the simplest example of a data structure, but as we'll see in this course, there are many others. When you work with data structures, one of the things that I find extremely helpful is to draw diagrams. So almost all the time when I'm working with data structures, I'll have a pencil and a piece of paper beside me, and I'll have these little sketches and diagrams that I'm working on. It's extremely useful to map out what the organization of the data is. I find that very useful. And your diagrams that you make, they don't have to be real pretty. They can just be, literally sketches on the, the back of some scrap paper, but it can really be helpful to have that. Here we've got some images on the right here. On the right here we've got an image of what they call a binary tree. We'll learn more about these later. This looks like it might be an array here. This looks like it may be a stack operation, and then this is probably then a queue, and then another tree type data structure. And we'll learn more about these different data structures as we go along. But keep in mind that this diagramming can be really useful, actually drawing them out by hand. Another thing that can be very useful in this course is the debugger. So I know you've had programming courses in the past. I'm not sure how much you may have been exposed to or how much you've taken advantage of the debugger, but it's extremely useful. So here's a screen capture of Visual Studio, and there's lots of different versions of Visual Studio and lots of different compilers, but most of them have basic debugging capabilities, and that is the ability to set a breakpoint, and that's probably this red dot here. The ability to step through code. You can see the yellow arrow here, so maybe we're stepping through code here. And the ability to have what we call watches or watch windows. So in here you'll see a list of variables here and their values. And this is really common features with most modern compiler tools. There's probably this is likely the call stack over here, where you can see how your program is progressed in terms of different function calls. So be sure to get used to using the debugger. A lot of good online tutorials. It's extremely useful in finding out what your program is doing and maybe why your program isn't doing what you'd like it to. I'm also here as a resource to try to answer your questions that you'll have and problems that you have, but I need you to help me out. When you ask me a question, I need you to provide me all the relevant information. So sometimes I get an email from a student that says my lab's not working or my program's not working, and no details about what might be going wrong or where it's not working, or no code or anything like that. So I really need you to help me to help you. So when you do ask a question, and I really encourage it, make sure you send me as much relevant information about the question as possible. Ask a very detailed question and send me things like the source code that you see here, and send me things like maybe a data file that maybe you see here. Send me the output that you might see here. You know, what output are you getting, what output are you not getting, and maybe even screen captures of the debugging of the debugger windows that shows variables at certain points that might be helpful as well. So maybe not all of this would be necessary, but try to ask as detailed a question as possible and try to send as much information as possible to me so that I can try to help you out. Over the years, I've gotten pretty good at debugging students' issues. Like I said, I've done this for a long time, and I've gotten fairly good at finding problems, but I do need information from you, source code and inputs, maybe outputs, what's going wrong. I do need information from you to be able to do this debugging. And finally, like in most other skills that you want to acquire, the best way to become good at anything is to practice. So in this course, the best way to become good at programming in data structures is to actually program with data structures. You can read about it, and that's good. You should read about it, but reading's not enough. To become proficient, you actually have to practice and use the skills. So make sure you spend a lot of time programming and working on your programs this session. Please contact me if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing you in the course.